Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic: what is an adult problem that nobody prepared you for? The childishness of other adults. Right here is the ultimate comment. I thought when I graduated from college the workplace would be full of serious people. Oh God, was I wrong? There is so much childish behavior with adults that it amazes me our society functions at all. Suburban adulthood and middle school have a lot more in common than I was expecting. I know you are, but what am I? I'm rubber, you're glue, so on and so on. Aging parents. This one has really hit me several times in the last decade or so. Just looking at your folks and being struck by how much they now look like your grandparents used to. The last time I stopped home I realized that both of my parents now use canes to support their mobility. I knew they were aging, and I knew they each had different knee problems in the recent past, but I hadn't seen them in person in a while, so I had no idea. It was pretty sobering. I intellectually knew my parents were aging, but I recently walked face first into something that made me actually face it. My dad has always organized his garage to within an inch of its life. I went into his garage the other day and it was a disaster. I knew he had been diagnosed with some dementia, but I didn't see it until I actually saw it. God, that hit me like a truck. I'm so sorry. My defining moment of adulthood was standing in a room picking out my mother's casket. I was married with 2 kids by then, but this is the moment I truly felt like an adult. There's a dialogue in a Telugu movie that I saw. In that scene an early 2020s guy was telling his dad how his mom irritates him sometimes. At that point in the movie the dad's mom was sorta missing. So, the dad says only until our parents die we can be children, when they die they take our childhood with them. That hit my dad pretty hard. He was newlywed when my grandfather died. Edit, I've never been through losing a parent, and I dread that day that it happens. But the best I can do is offer you guys a huge hug from a random Redditor. Edit 2, yes, this is from Oh Baby. How much every injury you had as a kid did really heal, it just laid dormant until you woke up on your 38th birthday. Now it hurts all the time. Shit, I turned 38 in 2 months. Are all of my broken bones going to come back to haunt me? Kinda. I mean, I had several car accidents as young man. Fully recovered, no lasting damage, but now 20 years later my neck hurts. Pretty much all the time. Had x-rays, see a chiropractor. I do stretches and exercises for it. It's just not right. It's damage from whiplash as a kid. Not much to be done about it. Wear your seatbelt and drive safe, kids. The mental load of remembering everything that needs to be done, and project managing it all. House repairs / improvements, finances, cleaning, laundry, bills, hiring people to do things, trips to the vet for vaccines, groceries, car maintenance, and the list goes on. It takes up too much room in my head. This 100%. I hate all these comments saying to get a planner, set calendar reminders, have a routine. Of course you know all these things and probably have them already set. The question is not how to solve these adult problems, it is about what adult problems are difficult. The mental load is ridiculously high for modern society. My point is, I do all the right shit too, but just organizing and tackling stuff in home life is exhausting when you do it 40+ hours per week for work already. You are not alone. I own a business that recently took off and I find that I can either have a very structured and organized domestic life or a very structured and organized business life, but I cannot have both. I just can't. I don't have the brain space to do it all. It's impossible. I'm an author, so when I start writing a book and then finally finish, it takes me about 1.5 months, my whole house is a goddamn disaster. Then I have to spend the next 2 weeks getting it all in order, only to start another book and do it all over again. It kills me. I'm just gonna reply here to all the people saying use a calendar or journal. I've explained that I already use a calendar for almost things in another comment. I'd describe myself as a highly organized person. I have to be at my job and that crosses over into my personal life. I'm not actively trying to remember things only in my head only to complain about it on Reddit. Just because I've written something in a calendar does not mean that this thing or task no longer takes up room in my head. And that's the point of my response to Op. It continues to take up that room due to the anxiety of actually getting it done. It's also impossible to write down every little thing that needs to be done, because frankly I'd spend more time writing in my calendar than actually getting shit done. Additionally, the list doesn't cover things that crop up at the time. For example, you've planned to clean, say, the bedroom tonight, and find something that belongs in another room, so go there to tidy it away only to discover something else that needs done. We cannot write down every little thing. I get where you're coming from. I'm super organized. Like obsessively organized. I've kept planners for as long as I can remember. We have a family board where we can see our weekly schedule. I'm on top of it all. I've got it all down, and I get it all done. That doesn't prevent any of it from being a mental load. Just the act of keeping it all planned, organized and balanced is still mentally taxing, no matter how on top of it you are. I have to-do lists. I have a yearly list, monthly list, weekly list, daily list. And they never get smaller. Every time I have something I can cross off the list, something else comes along that needs to be added. It never ends. And then, like you said, things pop up out of nowhere. Running a household, working, going to school, taking care of kids, pets, the spouse, cars, yards, appointments, meal planning, managing birthdays and holidays, and having to consider extended family in birthdays and holidays. My mind rarely gets a break. Even when I'm trying to relax, I'm often going over in my head what still needs to get done. And I'm not complaining. I love my life. I love being a mom. Like I said, I'm super organized and I often thrive on the challenge of seeing how efficient I can be. And I don't mind being busy. But, yes, the sheer amount of brain space it all requires, and the constant need to be planning, and thinking 2 steps ahead, was something I was not prepared for before becoming an adult. And there are moments where I do wonder what it would be like to put it all on someone else while I spend my days alternating between naps and video games. Being tired all the fucking time. Ever heard of crack? I laughed so hard my Coke came out my nose. Oh wait, let me clarify. Coca-Cola. Bruh. I went out with my friend the other night. I'm usually in bed by 10. Stayed out till 2, was asleep by 3. Didn't have a sip of alcohol and needed a day of recovery. I used to party all night, then be back at work to manage a restaurant at 8 AM, then go out and do it again the next night. This getting older shit is no joke. I used to rock and roll all night and party every day. Then it was every other day. Now I'm lucky if I can find a half an hour a week in which to get funky. Tilda Homer Simpson. Being absolutely exhausted most of the time. I never thought I'd be the I hate everyone guy. But I am, and everyone can *ck off. We all become Squidward after hitting a certain age. You either die a SpongeBob or live long enough to become a Squidward. Me. I'm Patrick. Fuck your rat race. Being sued by the guy who crashed into me from behind. Wow. Okay, edit. My wife doesn't want a dashcam, but I'm gonna get some eventually. It's great advice. We've had other accidents since, but that was the most consequential. However, the accident was in 1980, so not something I could have prepared for. So, story time. It was the night before Thanksgiving and I was giving a friend a ride home from his gas station job. We were approaching their driveway. My former housemates had a rented house, a left turn, and there was a car coming toward us around the curve, unlit 2-lane country road, just past that, so I stopped in front of the drive to let him go by. I saw his lights, but I couldn't tell how fast he was coming. Then I see high beams in the mirror, 4 headlights, coming fast. I try for the driveway because I still have a second. I pop the clutch and turn the wheel, but I'm driving a 71 VW camper with a 45 HP engine, so it's not like I'm burning rubber. Meanwhile, the guy behind me actually tried to pass, going at least 60 to 70 in a 55, saw the oncoming car, and tried to pass me on the right, but there was a guardrail right there because of a culvert or something, and he tried to wedge his car between us. So I get my van to about a 45 degrees angle and he catches my right rear corner. I wind up rolling into the ditch on the other side of the road and flipping into it, landing head up, facing the direction we came from. They took us to the nearby hospital to check us, and a cop gave me a ticket for not signaling a left turn. I told him I signaled, but I didn't see how I could prove it, so I didn't fight the ticket later. The hospital let us go and I'm still kicking myself for not demanding he get tested for alcohol. A month or so after paying the ticket, I find out he's suing me for $100,000 for injuries. Not fighting a moving violation, it's NY state, lets him claim it was my fault. Should have gone to a lawyer, but I was good and broke at the time. See above, not prepared. My insurance company got a lawyer, but I didn't get that he was working for them, not me. At the deposition a year later, he barely remembered what happened in the accident and couldn't prove pain and suffering, but they didn't even try to shoot down his claims. Finally, before the trial date 2 years later, they settle for $5,000. My policy said they could only penalize me a little bit if they had to pay out less than $50,000, so it was minimal except that I only had liability, so I was out the cost of an old van. Should have sued him, but young and inexperienced and just wanted to move on. In fact, a friend had an almost identical 71 camper and was selling it right then, so I bought that. The actual conclusion: 5 months after the settlement, he ran off the road and died. So I regret 2 main things: giving the oncoming car too much time, and not getting a lawyer to fight the ticket and go after him for the cost. By the way, the guy was a local business, dry cleaner, owner, and his store was right next to the station of the trooper that gave me the ticket. I had this happen to me. I was run off the road in the early morning by a truck that was in the wrong lane round a blind corner. My car rolled several times and ended up in the road. People stopped to help and everything. Then they ducked out of the way as a truck from the local electric company came around one of the Good Samaritan cars, and barreled into my car on its side. Spun us 270 degrees. Later the electric company tried suing me for damage to the truck they hit me with. I hope you sue them back. Once I was fully stopped, parked at an airport waiting for a friend. This lady rear-ends me. There was a bicycle cop that watched the whole thing, and started screaming at her to get off her phone. Even knowing full well that I was parked and a cop witnessed the whole thing, this bitch still tells her and my insurance companies that I put my car in reverse and backed into her. The fucking nerve. The problem is there are no consequences for lying, so they figure they might as well give it a shot. Maybe if the insurance companies started dropping people for that kinda bullshit or putting them in a database so their rates are sky high, it would reduce. You nailed the exact problem: no consequences for lying. There really should be.